Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with San Diego-based jazz big band leader Ira B. Liss. We talked to him in mid-January 2021 about his latest 2021 CD with the big band machine, Mazel Tov Kicktail, a celebration of 40 years. The sixth full-length album from the Ira Band is full of action. Ever since the early 1970s, Ira was destined in life to be a big band leader after he became a drum major and saxophonist at Patrick Henry High School in San Diego, California. He was voted the most valuable band member on his senior year, and at 6'7", he opted for music instead of basketball, and he never looked back. Dig the story. It's a great one.
Hey, Ira, Joe Domino, Neon Jazz Radio here in Kansas City. Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you, too. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Oh, man, my pleasure. What a great, full, rich CD you put out to the world.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Man, and I guess the backup of this is it comes out probably on one of the most extreme times, not only in America, but on planet Earth. And my question is, what are your feelings? Any ambivalence? Any kind of feelings on it coming out during such a dramatic pandemic time on Earth?
Well, first of all, we didn't plan it that way, and it was probably one of the biggest challenges in my music career to get this CD finished. I was not going to be prevented from getting it done. Luckily, the last recording session in the studio was March 1st. So we just made it, getting the recording done, the rough recording done, and then it was just a question. I had to wait 7 weeks before I could start mixing it. But, and then that was done with some, protocols in place, et cetera. And I wasn't going to stop. I was going to get it done, whether it, got me sick, God forbid, or not, but it didn't, and persevered, and we got it all done in time. The fact that it is released now, my hope is that it can provide people with some joy, I guess you could say, because the music, music does that. Music is a soothing thing in general, and you get lost in the music, and for a moment maybe you forget how you feel.
Yeah, that's the hope, and I think that's the thing that's special about releases that are coming out during this time, last year and even into this year. I know that as a radio guy, seeing CDs come in, seeing regularity, seeing things that existed before the corona world that are still happening are good, and I think we need that for our mental health, because right now, realistically, all of us are going through our own levels of trauma, or however you want to term it, with dealing with everything being upended. So I think it's really great that, that you've done this. So do you remember your last show before the old world shut down? Do you have any memories of that?
I have. It was just, we were so busy with trying to finish the album and get the music, get the band ready to go into the studio and stuff. I do recall a gig that we did last June that was really well received, and the band had such a great time. People love it, and I know that this feeling of I haven't seen the whole band together since March, because we're not able to rehearse, and that is a certain depressing feeling in itself. But I've managed to stay in touch with everybody, and everybody to a person is just saying they can't wait to get back at it, which is great. And now we just have to wait and hope to God that this herd immunity thing will start and we'll all be able to be together again. And I think it's just going to make us stronger. Personally, I think absence makes the heart grow fonder, they say, and I'm hoping that also is a factor in just making more and better music in the future.
I was thinking about yesterday about what it will feel like as a baseball fan to get back into a stadium. I mean, it's going to happen, and I think we're closer to it than we were farther away. And that's just a strange feeling, you know. But you know, there's so many things that I think we're all hopeful for. But I think, too, you know, from an artistic standpoint, you know, it's been a long time since planet Earth had a Bob Dylan moment, you know.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
You know, so if there was ever a time where, you know, the creative juices and the real artistic muscle can be flexed, I think now is probably a pretty good time to have it.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day who knows a lot of history, and said, you know, right after the Spanish flu was in 1919. Well, that was followed by the Roaring Twenties, which was like total music and art and you know, renaissance of the cultural arts, etc. So maybe there'll be another Roaring Twenties here with us after this pandemic. We can only hope.
Yeah. Well, Ira, let's go back into your life. Let's go to the beginnings, where you were born and raised and how music became your world.
Well, I was born in New York City in 1954, and we lived, my father was a native New Yorker, and we lived in New York until I was about 5 years old. And then we packed up the car and moved west to California, where my mother's family was living. I basically grew up here in San Diego, went to school here, and, you know, did pretty much everything, was raised here in San Diego. And as a musician, I don't come from a musical family. I don't know, I just took it and ran with it for some reason early on in school. It was so funny. I was talking to a reporter the other day, and she asked me, well, what was high school like? And high school was great. I was the drum major of my high school band. I was very active in music in high school. And it was in high school that I really heard my first big band recording. And that was Don Ellis, Autumn. I will never forget it. And I was hooked. And I was listening to Don Ellis, Stan Kenton, Maynard Ferguson, Woody Herman, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, you know, on and on and on. In high school, in the 70s, everyone else was listening to the British beat. So I was a little unusual in that regard. Big band music started for me that early in my life and never left.
Without a doubt. So at 6, 7, did you have dreams of being an athlete? Was that ever a part of your world?
Well, the basketball coach in high school wanted me to play basketball for my high school team. And I said, well, what about band? And he said, sorry, you can't do both. And I said, well, then I know what I'm going to do. And I didn't take him up on that. You know, I take him up on that. And so I did music. I didn't really feel that I wanted to play ball at that time, and my interests were more in the cultural arts rather than in athletics.
What about mentors? Who were big influences on you?
Well, Stan Kenton, most definitely, and there's a story behind that. When I was a freshman in college, I attended one of the Kenton clinics that they held every summer. They used to go around the country and do these big clinics at colleges and universities, the Stan Kenton, and with his band and jazz clinics. And I went to one of those, and that really was a huge difference to me. I got even more immersed in my craft. But one thing that happened while I was at that camp, it was at Sacramento State, and I think it was either 1973 or 1974. Stan was very available all the time. You know, you'd see him around, or he'd be hanging out talking to people. And one day I was walking to the mess hall for lunch, and Stan was sitting outside the mess hall on a bench talking to people, and I got the courage. You know, I was so in awe of the guy. I got the courage to walk over to him and start talking to him. And we actually had a great conversation that lasted about 45 minutes. And when I was to go into lunch and say goodbye, he turned to me and he said, he must have felt something about me at that point. I don't know. But he said to me, you know, Ira, it's going to be guys like you that are going to have to carry on this tradition when guys like me are gone. And I didn't really think that much about that. And he must have felt something about me. And so uncanny that maybe 10 years later, here I am starting my own big band. And here we are 40 years later, still doing it.
Well, it's amazing, too, how those older generations with their wisdom have pretty keen insights and how they can say one thing and change your whole life. You know,
he was remarkable, and the band was just, and I still to this day have friends who played in that band. Mike Vax, who's on our new album, was a friend from years ago. I met him there. I mean, this is just amazing in that regard. The friendships, the relationships that you make with some of these people, long-lasting friendships, and that's what one of those that happened with their other mentors. I think I named them: Count Basie, Maynard Ferguson, Woody Herman, Bob Florence, Rob McConnell. Oh, gee, there are so many. I was listening to everybody and anybody in our genre. I still do. I mean, there are some terrific bands out there. I get motivation from that a lot. I get a lot of motivation from the people I work with, too. I mean, that's the whole deal right there. It's the sum of the big band is the sum of the parts. And when you have people, great musicians, great talent that you're working with, it just motivates you every day.
You know, you have been on the bandstand with a lot of people in your career.
Yes.
With the veterans and legends and luminaries, what did you learn from them that in turn has helped you teach younger players?
There's a lot of great moments with a lot of those people that you mentioned. For instance, Bob Mincer, just an amazing guy. And he and I have become good friends. And we still correspond, we still talk. Just being around a guy like that is a motivation, is a learning experience, no matter what you do. He is a wealth of knowledge and experience. How many other people? There are so many. Just Holly Hoffman, great flautist that lives here in San Diego that we've featured on shows, and Dean Brown, he's a jazz fusion guitarist. He was in the Brecker Brothers. He tours with Billy Cobham, dear friend of mine. He's recorded with us. When I am around them, I'm picking their brain. I'm asking for help. I'm asking for, information about this or that or the business or whatever. And there's a lot of shared things going on back and forth between us. So that has all come into me, and then I, in turn, I do use a lot of it in trying to influence and motivate younger people, younger musicians.
What do you like the best about being a professional musician?
Performance and recording. We just love recording albums. It's, for me personally, producing is I really love it. I really love being in the studio with my people and creating what you hear, and the process and the experience is just it's just like nothing else. It's not like performing live. Performing live and recording are two different things. They both have their own sense of excitement. They both generate an interesting understanding about the music business. And I think I'm fortunate that I've been able to do both perform live and record.
When we do return to the live stage, what are you looking forward to the most? What's going to be the best part about climbing back up onto the stage?
Just being with the folks in the band. It's like these are my people. A lot of these people in the band have been with me for 25 years plus. They understand my vision about what I want to do creatively, and they focus on that quite a bit. There's a lot of great musicianship in this band, and also it takes good people. You know, it took 40 years to find a band that got along well together and performed on this high level.
So everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, that you're living your life. Who do you think you are?
Well, that's a really good question. I'll tell you that right now. I don't know. It would be interesting to ask that question to other people, what they think of me.
Yeah, it certainly would. Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer to this one. It can be hard. It can dig into the marrow of things.
I'll tell you this. I'm very grateful. I think this whole deal last year and everything has, for me, made me very grateful of what I have and what I've accomplished and what the band's accomplished. I just am truly grateful to those things in my life.
Perfect. Ira, thank you for taking a minute out. Thanks for the music. Good luck with everything on the return and beyond.
And I hope people will go out and support us, buy the album, buy the download, and they'll be rewarded with lots of tunes that will make them feel real good.
Thanks for listening and tuning into another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in San Diego, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Ira for his time, music, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.